By 1790, England had begun its slow transition from a primarily agricultural nation to an industrial one, and the nucleus of a worker class was emerging. After the grave and glorious achievements of the Napoleonic conflict, the government of the day seemed unable to cope with the newly acquired aspirations of the people, and by the time William IV came to the throne, it was unable or unwilling to stem the rising flow of animosity between employer and employee, or provide the means by which the working man sought solidarity. When it finally did begin to understand it, Churchill tells us, the activities of the early trades unions frightened the governments into oppressive measures. The most celebrated case was that of the Tolpuddle martyrs.
It has been suggested by malicious factions that the men who stand before me now to hear the sentence of this court are victims of injustice. That the brothers George and James Lovelace, Thomas Stanfield and his son John, James Blain and James Hammett are being punished for the organizing of an agricultural laborers' union in and around their native village of Tolpuddle.
Tolpuddle, my lord. I understand that locally the village is called Tolpuddle.
Be that as it may. I would remind the court that the combinations known as unions have been legally recognized in this country for the past 10 years. And the charge against these men is not that they formed such a group, but that they did so with unlawful oaths. In short, that they required all new recruits who joined their union to kneel down before a fearful likeness such as this and swear allegiance to a common cause and secrecy till death. The accused have pleaded that they were unaware of the Mutiny Act of 1797, which expressly forbids the administering of unlawful oaths to any of His Majesty's subjects. Indeed, I have been asked by their spokesman, George Lovelace, to put their claim of ignorance before this court.
My lord, if we have violated any law, it was not done intentionally. We have injured no man's reputation, character, person, or property. We were uniting together to preserve ourselves, our wives, and our children from utter degradation and starvation. We challenge any man or number of men to prove that we have acted or intended to act different from the above statement.
Simple ignorance, of course, is no defense. Having duly considered the facts of the case, so diligently assembled by the magistrate Squire Frampton, and the verdict of my jury, I have no option but to follow the dictates of the law as laid down by Act of Parliament. And on this 19th day of March, 1834, I hereby sentence each and every one of you to be transported to such places beyond the seas as Her Majesty's Council shall see fit for the term of 7 years.
Transportation is for criminals.
We're honest men who've done no wrong.
God is our guide, from field, from wave, from plough, from anvil.
I hereby sentence each and every one of you to be transported to such places beyond the seas as His Majesty's Council shall see fit for the term of 7 years.
Nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season.
His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but like the chaff that the wind driveth away from the face of the earth.
Mrs. Lovelace?
Yes?
You're expecting a friend from London?
You don't take friends on trust at this hour?
Either hand or heart.
Georgie, go upstairs and keep watch. Quietly, the way I told you.
You're wise to take precautions. My name, as you may have heard, is Newman. I've come as the representative of the London unions to offer you the sympathy of all our members.
Nothing more than that?
Well, I've also been asked to act as intermediary between the unions and yourselves, and to give you all the aid and comfort in my power.
We are very grateful, Mr. Newman. I am Betsy Lovelace, sir. This is James' wife, Sarah. Dinia there is wed to Tom. And this is Mrs. Hammett.
Unions?
That is correct.
What can they do? Give us back our husbands?
Sure.
Look at Dinia. She's lost not only Tom, they've taken off her son as well.
At least she knows the two of them are guilty.
Harriet, not
My
now.
Jim Hammett didn't do a thing.
Hush, now.
I want you to bring me up before the magistrate so that I can tell him.
I'm sorry?
The night they gave the oath to those new men at Stamfield's cottage, it was not my husband helped to swear him in. It was his brother. He's the one who signed the union book. That signature they have, J. Hammett, it stands for Jack. It doesn't stand for Jim the way my husband says. He's only taken on the blame.
If this is true, I'm sure he has his reasons.
Oh, yes, he has his reasons well enough. He prides himself the Hammets can depend on him no matter what.
Oh, Harriet. Jack's wife is pregnant, see, and not well. So Jim Hammett took his brother's place.
Try get some sleep, Jamie.
Believe me, Mrs. Hammett, I'm well aware that all your men in prison are suffering for their brother's sake, whether he's a brother by birth or a brother in the union. I've not come here to dwell upon their misery, The news of their arrest has roused a deal of public sympathy. We've had support from various newspapers. Now, we are hoping that this sentence, brutal as it is, will force the issue altogether and create a general outcry. One that the government and even Lord Melbourne himself can't ignore.
A peach in April, gentlemen. A miracle in this climate. Demanding all the resources of a hothouse and the gardening skills of generations. A luxury even in its season. And yet I'm told that in Botany Bay, such fruit may be had for little more than the planting.
You'll hardly claim, my lord, that you're sending out these men to supplement their diet.
If you are, I warn you their guts will not appreciate such delicacies. They've struggled too long on a starvation wage of 8 shillings a week.
I merely point out that a convict's life in the Antipodes does have its benefits. Superb. I was sure, Mr. O'Connell, I cannot tempt you.
Not with peaches, sir.
Oh, well, less agreeable matters. The king is quite determined, gentlemen, that the law shall take its course. Agricultural labourers, in His Majesty's opinion, are the backbone of this country. They must not be allowed to organize themselves into the sort of dangerous groups the tradesmen have established in the cities.
Oh, it is admitted, then, that these men have been sentenced as an example.
As a warning, certainly.
That royal hothead. Take 6 men and string them up as whipping boys. It's barbarous. He wants to run the country as a man of war.
Oh, now, come. His Majesty, for all his naval training, has been most accommodating. I mean it, sir. King William, in the few years he's been on the throne, has given his consent to anti-slavery laws, the Reform Bill, every other radical notion we've put before him, in its proper form. But if rebellious men insist on breaking the law, then I'm afraid they must be... Forgive me, gentlemen. I don't think you know my son.
You said that if I let them shave me,
You might have a peach, of course. But let me introduce you. Augustus. These gentlemen are friends of mine, members of Parliament. Mr. Daniel O'Connell.
Sir.
And Mr. Joseph Hume.
You call these men rebellious, sir. They've made inquiries. Their neighbours swear they were never mischief makers, but quiet and decent men of a Christian disposition. Lovelace and his brother even take the pulpit on a Sunday.
Preaching as dissenters.
Does that warrant exile? Surely, if there's nothing else, they're entitled to a freedom of belief.
Mr. Hume, for 40 years and more, we have avoided revolution in this country simply by shipping our dissenters to the far ends of the earth. O'Connell there can tell you of the steady stream of Irish patriots. And let us not pretend that these 6 are dissenters only on religious grounds. Men who will dispute with the authorities on the question of God will dispute with them on wages, working rights, and every other question under the sun.
On your feet, you scurvy lot. You got your marching orders. Pick up your belongings. Smart's the word now.
Where are we to go?
The prison house off Portsmouth. Give you a taste of what's ahead of you. A salt breeze, a wet arse, maggots in your rations.
Aren't we to see our wives before we go?
Oh, you're one for the jollies, you are. See your wives. You there, move yourself.
My brother's Pearly.
George Lovelace, is it? That's all right. He's down for the infirmary.
We'll not be separated.
You'll do as you're told, you scut. Come on now. Hit a line there. Move up.
Oh, James.
Line up there.
either hand or heart.
He's been separated there from all the others.
Aye. Because of jail fever. So they claim. Our belief is they want to keep the leader from the flock. And if they send them to Australia, they'll put your husband in a prison settlement that's far away from any of the others.
Oh, God.
If they send them to Australia. I say if, because there's an even wider call for their release. I only wish your men could know the outcry that's being raised on their behalf. It would give them such encouragement. Every union that can manage it has promised to attend at Copenhagen Fields. And there they'll be joined by sympathisers from all over England. We intend a deputation then, with banners and with drums, to lead a great procession in a march right through the city.
They estimate the crowd at 30,000, sir. If you wish it, as a royal gesture, I will see the leader's deputation and accept their petition on your behalf. I'm sure Your Majesty's refusal is the only proper answer to such uproar.
To refuse a deputation, sir, is to deny the right to petition. We demand a stay of sentence. Time for our appeal to be studied.
I'm afraid you come too late, sir, even if the king could be persuaded. 5 of the prisoners, I must tell you, are already at sea.
Already?
On the Surrey, bound for New South Wales.
And what about Lovelace?
Lovelace has now recovered from his fever and is due to set sail immediately for Port Arthur.
You'll ride chained to the coach to Portsmouth, but I got orders to remove the fetters through Salisbury.
That to ease my burden or their conscience.
What's that you say there?
I don't know where it is, this place I'm going to.
What, Portsmouth?
You know where I mean.
Oh, out there. It's a prison settlement on an island in the south. The one they call Van Diemen's Land. Takes about 5 months on the high seas. Hurry up now.
It's infamous, the whole affair. I'm ashamed to be a member of this parliament.
Assuming that the men are to be punished, what about their families? I can tell you no one better about the Irishmen shipped out to Botany Bay. But over and above that, I can give you details of the women and children left at home to starve. The Crown may wish to make a scapegoat of the men, but I'll not believe that you, sir, are prepared to sacrifice their families.
Did you ever meet my late wife, Mr. O'Connell? You've heard of her, of course, by reputation. The Lady Caroline, mistress of Lord Byron. An obsession that ruined our marriage, made her a byword, and finally led her on the way to helpless lunacy. Now, I'm a widower. And this, sir, is my only child. My son and heir. I'm afraid the tales of family misery have little power to move me.
And we of the London Dorchester Committee look upon you now as being our responsibility. We'll see you have the full protection of the unions.
Is that such a blessing?
Oh, we may not have saved your husbands, but until the day we have them pardoned, we'll continue to support you and your families with a weekly pension. Stand by you in their stead, as it were. That's a solemn pledge from the committee.
Well, at least we'll not be asked to watch the children starve.
You must thank your friends, sir. Kindly.
We must not lose hope, Mrs. Lovelace. I'm sure your husband hasn't. God is our guide, remember. From field, from wave, from plough, from anvil.
And from loom. We come our country's rights to save, and speak a tyrant faction's doom. I know your poem, sir.
from what I've to say. Mind all is your own as you touch it is, or you'll find us in Botany Bay. Singing true-ra-lie, oo-ra-lie, adity. Singing true-ra-lie, oo-ra-lie.
All right, you Johnny Newcombs! Stand still and listen! Take their chains off. I want them to look their measly best. I said your best, you godforsaken lot, because you were about to be offered to the colony at £1 a head. And I don't want the government accused of selling shoddy goods. Settlers like a strong and willing bargain. So when they come to look you over, smile, as if you're pleased to see them. Any man who fails to catch a bidder's eye will be sent up country, and that's a promise. Teeth and muscles and a broad back show them what they're getting. And if any of you have any aches and pains, even if you're dying on your feet, you'll still pretend you're the best bloody 20 shillings worth the government has ever offered them. Now, it may have crossed your minds that once you're out of chains and working in a farm somewhere, you'll be free to get up to your devil's tricks again. This scut here thought the same thing. And the lady who squandered £1 on his miserable carcass has sent him in here for a few gentle reminders. 25 strokes on the back to teach him that he's not his own master. 25 strokes on the arse to teach him to stand up and show respect for them that are. And 25 strokes on the legs to teach him that he can't run away from them. This'll be a lesson you'll be wise to learn as quickly as you can.
What is it?
There's something wrong. The sky. It's not the same.
Same?
As home.
Of course not. You're the backside of the world, see?
Another hemisphere.
But that don't change. That up there. They're in the stars.
Yeah. 'Tis a different lot, boy.
Not the ones we know.
They're different. Even the stars.
Everything.
These two farms we're going to. I asked the guard, they're both in the same district. I might be able to come across and visit you. Well, maybe if we work hard and show we're willing, they won't mind us meeting now and then.
Jamie. Sorry you did it. Took your brother's place.
Lord God, I ask for your help that we may not lose sight of one another and of you, Lord, in this strange land. And I ask for your help, Lord, for poor Sarah and her children, and for all our families back home. And last, Lord, in your mercy, I ask you to keep a loving eye upon my brother in whatever place the tyrants have sent him.
What's it, Richard?
Have we business, Mr. Hennessy?
I've made application, Your Excellency, for the services of one of the newly arrived convicts.
Well?
George Lovelace, sir.
Ah, yes, the Dorset ploughman.
He's on the road, gang, Your Excellency.
I wonder at you wanting to take on this man. Are you acquainted with this case?
I have had word of it, sir, yes.
And it doesn't worry you that he bears the reputation of a rabble-rouser? A conspirator against authority?
It wouldn't be the first time, Your Excellency, that I've disagreed with the judges on such matters.
It wouldn't, no. Lovelace! Well now, Lovelace, I've had a bid for your services from Mr. Hennessy here, who tells me that he needs a ploughman. As governor, I make it my duty to consider such requests and to grant them if I feel that there are mitigating circumstances. In your case, I would need to know that you regret the mischief-making that has brought you here.
Not sure I understand, sir, what you mean by mischief-making.
Unionizing! You and your companions formed a union.
I'm not sorry, sir, for that. Couldn't let our family starve.
Oh, come, you mustn't quote your claptrap man at me. I know it for the nonsense that it is. Did your grandfather have a union?
No, sir.
No. And did he starve? Of course he didn't. Or his father before him?
Talking of the old days, sir.
Aye.
Every village had its common land. Few acres the poor could call their own. Now that ground has been taken from the likes of us and given to the masters.
Yes, he's right. The Enclosure Acts of 17...
I don't need your briefing, Mr. Hennessy. There were good and proper reasons for the change.
May have been, sir. All I know is, since my father's time, we've had to make do with what the squire or the masters chose to pay us.
Ploughman's pence or pauper's pittance, yes.
It's clear that the prisoner has no regrets for what he's done. And your attitude, Mr. Hennessy, as convict's friend and champion of the underdog, is hardly likely to reform him. I can't assign him to your control.
I didn't think you would, Your Excellency, but it was worth a try.
You'll be assigned to the government farm. That'll put you under my charge and out of harm's way.
Game laws, more restrictions. Do nothing else but sign away my rights and privileges. Snippet here, snippet there. What do I get in return, eh?
Abuse, censure, parliamentary criticism, sir. It's inevitable.
But it's damned hard. Damned hard. This toll piddle business.
Toll puddle, sir.
Toll piddle. It would all blow over once we had them safely stowed away down south.
Misguided zeal, sir. Men like you, poor, soft Russell.
I'm not talking about the politicians. It's a fuss that still goes on in newspapers and in lampoons.
I never read such matters.
Well, you're lucky, sir. I'm still not rammed under that superior nose of yours. This was tossed into our carriage when the Queen and I were driving through the park. They call the place Toll Piddle. And the reason why is this. The King demands full payment for the privilege of a piss. And that strikes home. But it really hurts. All I wanted was to teach him a lesson for the countryman's own good.
Where are you? Why, Dad? Why?
I got permission. They let me come. I walked here from Bawara.
Soon there'll be an end to shipping convicts out from England. Not out of pity, but because the country is ripe for settlement. The question is whether it's going to be a prize for the parasites you see arriving out here every day by ship from England, with the blessings of the British government, or whether it's going to be for those who slaved for it in chains.
I know naught about your politics. Even less about your colony. I'm a ploughman. At least I am in Dorset.
I promised that I returned.
The toll paddle matter, sir.
Again?
I share your Majesty's sense of boredom.
Oh, what is it this time?
Some letters have come to light. Letters written by Lovelace to his wife whilst he was awaiting transportation.
Yeah?
They were read in Parliament today by Mr. Wakely, in a most pathetic manner, I may say. They have thrown the House into a sympathetic frenzy.
Damn! They don't play fair. It's not debate, that sort of thing. It's snivelling family sentiment.
Really?
Yes, Adelaide. Well, one can't avoid it, I suppose, Melbourne.
I must say, the agitators make a great success by dwelling on the family aspect, sir. The separation of the prisoners from their wives and children. I am wondering if we might not turn the game in our favour. Your Majesty has made his stand on the agricultural unions and their evil influence. Suppose you are now to show your concern for those involved.
Well, I won't release the men.
Oh, not release them, no, of course not. My suggestion is that you reunite the families.
Oh.
They've offered us our passage. The government at their expense. We can take the children, live together as a family.
In Australia?
Yes. They'll arrange it. And the men are to be given their parole, the 6 of them. They'll have their ticket of leave, see?
That doesn't mean their freedom, Betsy.
No, but shorter sentences. 2 years for the other men and 3 for George and Jamie.
It isn't good enough. I'm sorry, the charge must be dismissed. Entirely. Anything less than that is an admission of guilt. And we can't accept it.
We? Who's we?
The committee. Our aim is a full and unconditional pardon. And I must warn you, if you go out to Australia, there's a strong chance you may never be allowed to return. The government's clearly anxious to be rid of you and the whole matter. You would do well to think on that.
There isn't any point, sir. If our husbands want us to go to them, we will. No matter what.
Where they may be joined by their wives and families. And, Mr. Speaker, where the prisoners will have the privileges of ticket of leave men. And they will be free to find their own work and to live some sort of ordinary life within the limits of the colony. And I sincerely trust that this puts paid to the whole affair.
I'm glad that you're being sensible at last, that you've written to your wife, inviting her to join you.
Yes, sir.
You must accept that the government's wisdom in this matter is much greater than your own. There's your ticket of leave. Now, I've drawn up a list of settlers, men of substance, with whom you might apply for a job. You realize, of course, that being on parole means that you must steer clear of any mischief-making. I mention this because the colony at the moment is in a state of some disturbance. One could almost say that it's divided into two camps, the settlers who have arrived in recent years and the convict element. You would do well to put your trust in the respectable party.
I put my trust in God, sir.
Good. You'll find he favors the employers on this list, I think.
What's this there? A squatter on God's little acre.
I meant no harm. I was just resting for a bit, that's all.
On your way to Sorel, eh? Well, you can save your legs. You won't find any jobs there either. What His Excellency doesn't realize about the settlers on his little list is that they won't pay wages for a ticket of leave, man. Not when they can get a convict outright for 20 shillings. There's a German settler I know, a Major de Giller.
20 years in the British Army. Married, what is more, to a British wife. Now that, in England, makes me quite acceptable. But here, oh no. Here I rank along with the convicts and the native aboriginals. They should have a sign. The colony and all its privileges are for British-born immigrants only.
Those who come out of their own free will.
Well, I have read of your case. My friend here has the newspaper sent out from England. It's bad judgment.
Yes. Thank you for the meal. If you show me where I am to sleep.
There's a hut along the track. Big enough for now, I think. When your wife and children join you, if you wish to stay, we will find you something else.
I've yet to hear whether she wants to come.
But you have asked her to.
Yes, as a condition of my ticket of leave.
Never mind the conditions. They've made you a decent offer. It's a new life.
We already have a life in Dorset.
Or starving on 7 shillings a week.
At least it isn't exile in a place that's one great prison.
But soon there'll be an end to all that. And then the likes of you, somebody who can stand up and make a stand for what is theirs by right. Now, look, you spoke of the common land in England. Stolen from those who've sweated for it. Well, it's common land here as well, the whole colony. And those who've sweated for it most have been the convicts. Now, my aim is to see that they get a fair cut in the sharing out of things. And that means you, along with all the others.
Theo, you talk too much. Oh, Lovelace, you must forgive my friend. He has a maggot in the brain about such things. His father... You see, his father was a convict. Hennessy can't forget he's the son of such a man. Good night.
Your Excellency, the prisoner Lovelace, he's registered his employment as ticket of leave.
Well?
He's taken service with de Giller.
Who?
De Giller, sir, the German major at Glenair.
Not that jackanape who went over my head.
Yes, sir. Applied direct to London for his denization papers.
My God! It never fails, does it? Mischief to mischief, like to like. Well, he's chosen his company. Let him look his future, that's all.
Blessed is everyone that feareth the Lord, that walketh in his ways.
for thou shalt eat the labour of thine hands. Happy shalt thou be, and it shall go well with thee. Thy wife shall be as a fruitful vine by the sides of thine house.
We don't know, sir.
We're still waiting for her husband's instructions.
Good. Good. That's very good news.
Why? Because it helps the Union cause?
No. Because there have been some new developments in the case that might be jeopardised by any move on your part. Now, I cannot give you details. All I can say is that Mr. Joseph Hume is preparing a speech for Parliament. A speech that could take the country by the ears.
I have news of a most serious nature for His Majesty's government. Our committee has established that the Mutiny Act of 1797 has been transgressed in a most flagrant manner by an organisation well known to everyone here present. Even more disturbing is the fact that this treacherous body numbers thousands of apparently respectable citizens in its ranks. And it is led, Mr. Speaker. It is led by no other person than the King's own brother, His Royal Highness, the Duke of Cumberland. I'm speaking of the lodges of the Orange Order. It beggars belief, I grant you. But I can assure you that every member of this grand order, including His Royal Highness, has sworn a secret oath to the society, and in so doing is guilty of exactly the same crime as the men of Tolpaddle. I ask now that immediate steps be taken to arrest the Duke and every one of these traitors, that they be brought to trial, and if found guilty, be shipped off to the wilds of Australia.
It's a ludicrous suggestion. All right. If you're determined to make nonsense of the act, on what terms may I tell the King that you will be prepared to settle?
A full and unconditional pardon for the 6 men in Australia.
And a free passage back to England.
I'm afraid you have no choice, sir.
Oh, piddle.
A full and unconditional pardon and a free passage back to England. Well, time enough for that when we've a ship on hand and ordered in the colony.
My wife says, would you like to eat with us tonight? You must please yourself, of course. Oh, this leaf of yours, it's from a...
Sycamore.
Yeah, of course. I know it well. In Germany, we call it a Bergerhorn. Now, this you didn't find since you came here.
No, it's from a tree growing in our village.
So, if you change your mind about tonight, you will be welcome at the house.
It's bound to take some time, Betsy. They're clear across the world.
Willie, there's a mail shipping. Been delayed by over 2 months. Look, the English newspapers about Lovelace.
What a pardon!
Full and unconditional, Willie.
But when? When did this happen?
March.
And now only he hears about it in September?
His Excellency must have known since last July. He's been keeping this pardon up his sleeve. This is just what we've been waiting for, Willie. Lovelace needs a jolt to put him on our side, and this could do it. We must show him this as proof.
Proof of what?
Of the shabby justice he's been getting from Governor Bloody Arthur and the King.
But this is freedom. What else does he need?
Restitution, Willie. Oh, restitution. Look at the injuries they've caused him. The labels they've hung around his neck.
He'll not count such costs. Come on.
It's about time he did, by God. And don't be taken in by any talk about the King's indulgence. Your pardon's nothing but a piece of plain, unvarnished blackmail.
But, Leo, it's freedom.
It's a sour green apple, Willie, been thrown to him because they had no other choice. If you go back home, you'll find nothing's changed.
Don't listen to him. I warn you. He's wanting you to settle in the colony.
What better chance, Willie? A new country with its options still wide open.
Ever since I came here, you've been saying these same things. Why should you be so concerned for me?
I won't pretend. You could be of use to us. Your case has put you in the public eye. You could have influence.
If I were a politician.
You've got a better qualification. You're a lag. Convicts like my father and the other poor sods of the early days, their memory will be breathing down the necks of every government that takes up office here. But the living, their kind, if they're to find a decent life, they've got to have a proper spokesman. Somebody who can make their claim with full authority.
Hey, you don't understand the way of it. You brought me my release, but you don't understand it. What do you suppose it means? This pardon? That we the King's indulgence? No. It means the charge has been dismissed, and with God's own justice. We and all who wish to form a union swear an oath of loyalty. We're free to do so, and we're innocent of any crime. I can't speak for your convicts, Mr. Hennessy. I never was a convict. I'm what I've always said I was. An honest country laborer.
He could have been anything out here if he'd wanted. A hero. Now he'll figure as some kind of martyr.
England has too many heroes, Leo. Maybe martyrs is more that she needs.
True patriots all. For be it understood, we left our country for our country's good. And none will doubt but that our emigration has proved most useful to the British nation.